All right, how's it going, everybody? I'm super excited to have our good friend, one of our real estate partners up in Big Bear, and a client, Shelly Smith. She's just an awesome person. I know we've had a lot of people reaching out to us about our personal Big Bear property, how to invest in Big Bear, since a lot of our audience is in Southern California. So, Shelly, we're super excited to have you on. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
We are going to ask a series of questions from what a lot of people have been kind of asking me, and I want to just have your professional opinion as you're kind of the master and you were our mentor when we got started investing in Big Bear. So if it's okay, do you mind if we get right into it?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first question we have is, what motivated you to get started in investing in real estate and helping other investors?
So I'm originally from Utah, and when Todd and I moved to California, we kept looking for the mountains and felt like there weren't any. And then we discovered Big Bear together. And really, we were excited about access to a ski resort. Personally, it mattered to us. So we decided we would take a plunge and buy a second little cabin. Anyway, as I was researching it, what I discovered was there's a lot of financial benefits and a lot of tax benefits. I was just amazed at what you could do with a second home, especially if you used it as a rental. And that's really what got me started investing overall. And I think Big Bear is a fun place to buy because you sort of get the benefit of having a cabin for your family as well as making money and getting it paid for.
That I couldn't agree more. You were mentioning something to me about why you really got into the professional side and helping people. Kind of share on what started that for you.
You know, I was in a completely different world before. My job was in New York. I traveled 80% of the time, 26 weekends a year, and it was hard. And somehow I discovered real estate, and I decided it was a passion, and not just second homes, but investing in all types of properties. And that's kind of where my interest started. And then I realized there's nobody to help. Real estate agents will help you buy a house, and after that, you're kind of on your own. So that's what got me going in terms of investing overall, but also becoming a realtor so that I could help others.
And for anyone watching, I can tell you firsthand, Shelly really held Haley and I's hand going through the whole process. So she's definitely, everything she does is above and beyond. So we're super thankful for that.
Thank you.
What did you like? You mentioned about, Big Bear and having the family and getting that mountain feel. Was there anything about maybe that it was set up as a vacation rental type place? Like what, and you've been really smart with your money and you've accumulated so much wealth through real estate. Is there anything maybe on the financial side that you saw in Big Bear that was good potential long term?
Sure. The trick to investing is really the proximity to your client at the end of the day. So, Big Bear has the proximity to Southern California and also to Las Vegas, and there's a proximity to Mexico, proximity to Arizona. But if you leave all that out and just focus on Southern California, as a second home location, this little Big Bear town is rated in the top 10 in all of Airbnb's investment potentials. And during the pandemic, it was number one in the world. And it's really a driving destination. So you're not dependent on an airplane. You're not dependent on what the price of flying is. So that's a big one. You can drive there, and it's a short drive. It's a short distance. And then there's also the ski resort. Lots of people say to me, why don't we buy an Arrowhead? And the reason that you don't want to buy an Arrowhead is simply because it's another hour drive to the ski resort. So yeah,
Didn't know that.
want to be in Big Bear in the winter, and you haven't experienced this yet, but it's a constant barrage at really nice high rates because of the ski resorts. And then in the summer, what's happening is people are trying to get away from the heat. So like this morning when we left Yorba Linda, it was close to 96 and it's
Yeah,
70 degrees up here.
that's great.
Yeah, so you've got the weather plus the lake. So, there's a real reason to buy up here.
Sounds like it's kind of good, kind of year round, right? There's some
Mm-hmm.
locations that just cater for the winter, but it
Mm-hmm.
seems like Big Bear also you have the lake, and there's a lot of other activities to do other than just snowboard and ski, which is great for the investment
Yeah,
piece.
they actually have a council that does all year long. They do activities and advertisements and different events that drive you to Big Bear. So now we're into Oktoberfest, and you'll
That's
find
right.
that we get a lot of traffic for Oktoberfest.
We were talking about this on the phone earlier, but I want to just talk about for people that are thinking about buying up there, the barrier to entry. We'll kind of touch on the down payment,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit on the financing side, but what are you seeing for pricing up there right now? I know the market's definitely changed a little bit. What are
Yeah.
you seeing right there? I know it depends, but if you can give us kind of the full 360, it'd be nice.
In the outskirt areas, prices have softened. The first thing to soften is always going to be the second home. So it's a great time to buy. You have a lot of ability to negotiate, which wasn't the case 6 months ago. 450,000 to 550,000 can get you a nice little 2-bedroom cabin that
That's
is in
great.
a rentable area. Yeah.
I want to talk about that too. So a lot of people don't realize this, but we had a friend that we brought up to our cabin and she was saying, do I have to own a primary residence to then go buy a vacation rental or a second home? And I thought that was an interesting question, and you
It
don't
is.
have to. There's different ways that you can get creative on saying it's your primary residence, especially
Mhm.
if you're working remote, and you haven't owned a home before. That's a little bit easier, and the financing terms are a little bit better. But
Yeah.
if you're strictly buying, as a second home vacation, you only need to put 10% down. And if you're looking at a $500,000 house, you have $50,000 right for your down payment. Closing costs are going to be about 2% of that, so you're looking at about 60 grand. And I think the barrier to entry, people don't realize that you don't have to do it on your own. And I want to kind of talk about
Mm.
a recent client of yours. I believe they were business owners. Can you touch on how they were kind of all coming together to buy a
Yeah.
property up there?
Sure. Well, it's really fun because periodically I'll find something that's a good deal or something that I like in whatever area, and I'll call clients and say, I have this property. You want to play? And I'll figure out the math for them so they know what they need to put down and how they need to make it work. We just do it as a group, form an LLC, appoint someone to be ahead of it, someone that does the day-to-day managing. And periodically throughout the years, I've been involved in them. My clients have done them on their own. It's a really fun way to invest. I mean, I can give you a personal example. That property that I just bought in Palm Desert last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think we paid 550,000 for it, and I have two partners in it. I'm the managing partner, and the original investment in that was $20,000. Now it was 10 years ago, but now we have a $500,000 piece of property.
That's
So
so cool.
it's
Appreciate
fun.
that.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I really appreciate you bringing this up. So if there's someone that's really close and they're like, hey, I don't know if I can do this on my own, let's team up. When you're
Hmm.
doing an LLC, Shelly, do you
Hmm.
have like an attorney that helps separate that? Or is it the parties' jobs to kind of come to an agreement on, hey, I'm going to put this in, you put this in? How does that process look from the beginning?
Sure. It's sort of a conversation that the partners would have up front. An attorney can help you set the LLC up, or you can also do it yourself. You just look
Oh,
online. There's plenty of ways to set it up. There
okay.
are some tax things that we'd want to discuss about, when you do it, because you have certain deadlines for taxes, etc. But generally speaking, the investments that I've done personally with people in the past, we decide how much we want to put in, how much we want to buy, what we want to do, and everybody typically throws the same amount of money in. And it can be an investment of any size. So, as an example, with the Big Bear situation, if you had 5 partners and one partner's got really great credit and the ability to get the loan, that could be their part, right? Everybody else puts the money in, the person with
Capital.
the credit gets
Gotcha.
the loan, then we fund it. You do the loan, then we move it into the LLC after it's
After.
funded.
Yep.
Yeah, and then once the paperwork is set up, then everybody has an ownership in it and you're off and running. It's good. You have to have like-minded people,
Yep.
and I wouldn't recommend doing it with anybody that's really financially strapped, because
Yeah.
that'll become a problem. You want people that have, the means to carry a problem if it happens, but it's great. It's really fun.
I appreciate you bringing it up. On
Yeah.
the lending side, I'm known for being a little more creative than I think a lot of other lenders. And you're the one that brought up to me that you can join a partnership. And if you
Yeah.
don't have the capital up front, you can get other
Yeah.
people involved and,
Yeah.
closing it. Everyone's on title because we're trying to give
Mhm.
them a residential loan, right? And then after the fact,
Yeah.
closing it in LLC. It's just a great idea.
Yeah.
Let's get into the fun stuff. I know people want kind of what you're doing really well up there. And
Mhm.
you mentioned something that was really cool. You're looking at properties. I mean, you have so much fun with what you do for a career. And as a client, I can see that. And I
I
think
love it.
that's
Yeah.
so cool. You love
Mhm.
it, right? It's a game
I
to you.
do. It is.
And you analyze these deals for other clients because you're never
Mhm.
going to have someone invest in something that you wouldn't do
Mhm.
for yourself. And I think that's
Mhm.
super cool,
Thank you.
super admirable. Going specifically on your bookings, you got some great properties, and we'll share, guys. We'll share her Airbnb listings after the podcast. How are you getting more booking? I know it's a loaded question, but how are you getting more bookings and higher occupancy rates on your Big Bear properties? What's something that you're doing that's been really good for you?
Well, there's a couple things. You want to trick the algorithm on Airbnb, and part of that is playing around with your listing. So I sit in front of the TV at night, change my prices by $1, work on my calendar a little bit. And sure
Okay.
enough, if you do that, you'll notice you'll get a booking if you're not booked. Also, of course, you want to advertise it on things like Facebook and friends and family. And then I go into, I'm going to talk Airbnb. VRBO is a different animal. Booking.com is different, but Airbnb
Yep.
is really the big one. And you can go in and print up all of your bookings and then keep a track of everybody who's been in your house and mark it to them. So for this winter, I just remodeled my cabin, and I just don't want anybody I don't know in it because I'm emotionally attached for a minute. So I'm going to call my previous clients and book it that way.
I love that. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that. And I don't want to
Mhm.
say anything to get anyone in trouble. We're just talking
Yeah.
out loud right now. Is there a way where if you have a client that rented your home and you really like them and how they communicated, is there a way maybe they could save money and then you as an owner can maybe make a little
Mhm.
bit more money by doing like a direct booking? I know the insurance doesn't really help that part.
Right.
Could you do it through like a Venmo transaction?
Mhm.
Do you have a website? Like, how are you strategizing? Or do you just have them rebook through Airbnb or Verbo?
Well, you can, as long as you have your own insurance in place, especially if you know the people, especially if you've had a great experience with them on Airbnb, experienced hosts will always offer their guests that are good to come off platform. So the way it
Okay.
goes is great time. We like you. You like me. We like the house. Next time you want to come to Big Bear, just send me a text and we'll work it out. And then
Okay.
have them Venmo you the money. If you've got some concerns, have them Venmo you a deposit. I've also run with credit card bookings in the past. It's not my favorite thing to do, but you can do that as well if you want to get set up for that. Um, it works great, and it will save them the fee, which I
Yeah.
want to say is like 11%, something like that.
It
Might be
saves them.
13%.
Yeah, taxes. I mean, the
Mhm.
booking fee, right? Cleaning fees.
Mhm.
So that's great. And it's people
Yeah,
that you've worked with in the past. I don't even think about that, right? People that have rented out the home before, you have that
yeah,
reciprocity. They're a client, right? So
that's right.
having that trust. I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. Do you do your pricing yourself? Do you use
Mhm.
Price Lab? I know that's a really popular price engine. What are
Yeah.
you doing right now?
So I have a couple of clients that use Price Lab, people that have multiple vacation rentals, and they like it. Lonnie has like 10 and she runs, and they're all in Big Bear, and she runs them all on Price Lab, and she's booked constantly. Now, I have a different attitude about it, and my thing is I don't want to lose control of it. I want to make sure that I can set the minimum because Price Lab will take you to $50, you know?
Just to get the
So,
booking, huh?
so I do it
Okay.
myself. Yeah, I feel better about that. I think, especially when you start, people feel better about that too.
We just had someone ask, they love your kitchen. Is that remodeled behind you or?
It is. Let's see if I can show you. I'm all proud of this thing. Let's see. You can't really see it, can you?
The island. Yeah, no, it looks
It
great.
turned out good. We worked on it all spring. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out,
Kind of
Jeannie.
hard in a log house to figure out how to tie it all in, but I think it turned out good.
When you're looking at potential investments for yourself and
Hmm.
for your client,
Hmm.
I know it's going to be dependent on their finances, but for
Sure.
you, what are you looking for? Like, what are the must-haves, amenities, bedroom count? Focus
So
on Big Bear.
there's a couple schools of thought. If you want easy and lots of quantity of rentals, and if you're a little bit nervous in the beginning, buy a 2 bedroom, 1 or 2 bath place. And you want to make sure it's not in the outskirts of town. You want to be by the ski resort, by the lake, somewhere in between. You know, that's perfect because you can market it that way all year.
Yep.
That's an easy way to do, and you'll pay less. If you want to do a mainstream investment with more bodies in the house, you know, go for more bedrooms, and you can rent it more continuously. I mean, you guys did the perfect thing by adding a game room, you added a hot tub, and your house has done very well this summer.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
didn't we change the name to somewhere by the lake or something like that?
Yeah, it's I'm glad you brought that up. You recommended, depending on the time of year, you're going to
Hmm.
cater the marketing for that specific year, right? So we're close to the lake.
Yeah.
And then in the wintertime, we'll change that up. But
Hmm.
yeah, we have a little bit of a bigger house. So, comes a little more people and wear and tear.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think for the audience watching this, I love what you said about maybe that entry level cabin, right? That
Hmm.
$500,000 cabin that's going to get bookings for couples to get away.
Hmm.
It's definitely a niche, and being in a more popular area, I think is a great suggestion. I get a lot of people asking me just the future of Big Bear. I know Palm Springs has their, rules on how many bookings you can get during the
Hmm.
year. Are you still on the board, Shelly?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. What are you seeing unbiasedly kind of leading into the next
Sure.
year for Big Bear?
Well, there's a group of people that live here full time that would like to limit the number of vacation rentals. So that is happening. However, the bulk of the town is very clear that they make all their money off of the tourists. So, you know, historically, this has been a very vacation friendly rental town, and I believe it will continue to be that because there is no industry in Big Bear other than the tourist, you know, and we don't have the the lodging for people to come up. The town expands to 100 to 150,000 people on a busy weekend. And
Wow.
yeah, and we don't have accommodations to sleep those people. They have to stay in cabins, which makes this another unique town just because, the cabin, if you go to Park City as a different example, that's a world-class ski resort, and I own there too. And you get people from all over the world for all the events, etc. However, in the summer, it's a lot harder because there's nothing to do in the summer. Here you have an all year round resort. It's really good.
When you're investing in
Mhm.
places like Park City, places that you can't really
Mhm.
drive to, what
Yeah.
professionals do you need to have in place?
Super good handyman, and probably more than one, because they don't always respond right off the bat. And you want different levels of handymen. So you need professional plumbers, professional electrician, but generally speaking, an all around handyman guy can help you with 90% of it. You need a really good maid service, people that you trust, because if they mess it up, that's going to hurt your rating, and it will hurt your ranking. So you want to make sure you have a good maid service, and maybe just some connections in terms of people that would help you in a spot. For example, what's going on, at my house in terms of the rain. Can somebody drive by it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're missing the most important piece, and that's having a really good real estate agent, right? I mean, typically the real estate agent is going to have a lot of resources, and every
Mhm.
person that we used was through Shelly. So
Yeah.
it's really important just to work with someone that knows the area, invests there personally, and knows what the heck they're doing. Shelly, I got one last question. I
Okay.
super appreciate your time.
Yeah.
If Shelly Smith were to go back on
Mhm.
her investing career, and I know that you came from corporate America,
Mhm.
and you've just done so well, and it's so cool to see everything you and Todd are doing. What would you have done differently if the 21-year-old Shelly,
Mm.
looking back, talking back to yourself, what would you have done differently in your journey to get started in what you've been doing?
Your first loan is the easiest one. And if you can buy, a multi-unit building or a vacation property, something that makes you money as your first property, I would definitely shift the way that I bought.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And the other thing is when the market is bad or it feels scary, you want to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. So, yeah, it's a little wonky right now. It's a great time to be a buyer because people are afraid. So try to do the opposite. But for sure, my first property would have been a multi-unit building bought as a primary residence.
It's so funny because I think everyone, when they make all this money or they have a salary or a good
Mhm.
paying job, they want to buy the nice house, right?
They
Which isn't
do.
a bad thing,
Mhm.
but buying a house can be a liability. It's not always an investment. A true investment is either A,
Mhm.
do I make a return on the money that I put in, or B, am I cash flowing on that property and is someone
Sure.
helping me pay down that loan?
Mhm.
So I appreciate you saying that because buying a really nice home, that's all great, but you're going to be paying a lot in interest. You're going to be paying in taxes, your insurance, maintenance of the house. So I love
Mhm.
what you said. And I love the question that our friend asked us is like, look, you don't have to own a primary residence. You can buy an investment and learn the ropes that way. And maybe you set aside a portion of that extra cash flow you get every month to go then buy your next property. Um,
Well, people don't think it's real. They don't think you really can buy something that other people pay for. But, my cabin that we have is 3,000 square feet, and we paid $750,000 for it 10 years ago. Cost 55 grand a year to own, with everything. And we rent it from November to March, and $35,000 of that is paid for by the people who rent the house. So it's not that, it looks like an impressive house to own as a second home, but it's pretty much paid for by other people. And that's kind of the game.
it is. And I love your whole approach on business
Mhm.
and I was listening to a TED Talk the other day, and it talked about happiness, and really it's a choice that you make, right? And if you look at it as like more of a game and less a transaction, it really makes things more enjoyable, and your clients can see that too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the quote that Warren. Yeah, I'm trying to find the quote that Warren Buffett talked about. What you were saying though, buy when everyone is selling, don't buy when everyone is buying. And I think that's really important, especially right now. And again, selfishly, Shelly is a real estate agent. I'm a loan officer. I know in your heads you think, well, of course you're going to tell me now is a great time to buy because your commission relies on it. And quite frankly, Shelly and I are in a great spot. We don't need to have that. But knowing what we know, there are a lot of opportunities to buy right now. Interest rates will drop once the Fed start to control inflation. I always say you're going to marry the home and you're going to date the rate, right? So you're not going to be in that same interest rate. I mean, Shelly, how many times have you refinanced your properties through the years?
Multiple. Sometimes you pull money out to buy something else. Sometimes you find a better rate,
You're not going to be in it for 30 years to our point, right? And when the market starts to soften, when there's a lot of scared, going on, that's your opportunity, because I'm telling you, when interest rates do come back down, and they will, you're going to see the market flood again. And it's going to be a lot harder to negotiate for seller credits to use that money to maybe buy down your interest rate, and you're going to have other competition. So the housing market is really good. The second home market, you're totally right, because typically, guys, what happens is if people have their money rolled into stocks or bonds or vacation homes, and they just want to liquidate out of that. But how long have you been investing in Big Bear for, Shelly?
I want to say since 1996, 1997. Yeah. We bought our first little funny house. Yeah.
You've seen all the cycle.
Yeah.
And this is just a cycle.
Yeah.
What's your biggest?
What's my biggest what?
I'm sorry. I was going to say, what was just looking back from the years of investing in vacation areas, what was your biggest takeaway? Did you do anything? Did you sell?
And any investor that I talk to that's done a lot of real estate, they'll say that the first 5 properties or so that they bought, they wish they would have just kept them, because a lot of times you buy and you sell and you think there's a better deal over here. And, it's interesting. I think diversifying yourself is also good. I wouldn't recommend that anybody have 8 properties in Big Bear. I have a client that does, but she's a heavy duty investor in other places. So I think you should definitely diversify as you move forward. The first one, can be wherever you want it. After that, spread out the wealth a little. You'll be safer. I don't know anybody that had as much property as I had that went through 2008 and 2009. They all went bankrupt. And I was fine because I had multi-units and single family homes, and the vacation rental stuff did great. It was fine. So that's the diversification.
You're an absolute wealth of knowledge, and Haley and I are super thankful that we connected with you, Shelly. We'll put Shelly's contact info in, guys, below, and we'll also put in her listings. Shelly, I so appreciate your time. Thanks for everything that you did for Haley and I and continue to do. And thanks for making time today. And, we've been getting a lot of people reaching out to us, so definitely want to connect you guys with Shelly. And thank you again.
Thank you. Super fun. Take care.
Take care.